Okay. Mindset Monday. For those of you who don't know, we do a Mindset Monday. Each week is based on a different topic. Each month is for a different theme. So the theme for February is self-love and confidence. We talked about the importance of self-compassion last week. It was an amazing conversation. I really appreciate everybody who had any insight. Today, we're talking about building confidence. And the way that I usually like to do these is I ask a couple questions that you guys can feel free to answer. And I kind of do my opinion on them. And then I have some like little tips and tricks for things that have either worked for me in the past or things that I've read about and I'm currently working on getting better at. But ultimately, the goal behind these Mindset Mondays are just to think about things a little bit differently, to hear a lot of people have different opinions, to sometimes feel less alone because it's nice to know that other people go through similar situations. So the first question for building confidence is, and I wanted to just kind of start on a positive note, is what is one small win that has helped boost your confidence recently? So it can be something with work. It could be something with relationships or friendships. It could really be anything, but just something that has helped you boost your confidence a little bit. I think the biggest thing that boosted my confidence recently was probably doing our uncapped subathon because I was just blown away. There's a lot of times that I have a lot of self-doubt when it comes to streaming, and I just didn't expect it to just pop off and us crush all the goals. And so that kind of helped boost my confidence into being like, okay, I guess I'm not the world's worst streamer, at least. Brock Stewart, we want the opposite though. Any sort of win, and it can be with anything. It even can be in a video game, right? Like, I think the important thing about mindset and when we talk about these things is that it's really easy, and generally as humans, we tend to focus on what is not doing well and the things that we can fix and the negative parts of it. But really, if we can wire our brains to think about the positive, happy things that are happening, you'll be more likely to even look for those type of things. And I think when you are constantly looking for that, life also becomes better. Stretch, staying away from people. Hey, sometimes spending time by yourself can help you work on your own confidence. Because if you're constantly surrounded with other people and their opinions and comparison and all these other things, really, truly spending time doing your own thing, I could totally see that. I don't know if you meant that as a joke or not, but I think that can be legit. How I handle people with my emotional intelligence, my communication skills, and then my gym progress. Let's celebrate the small ones. Exactly. Yeah, you gotta always start by celebrating the small things. And similar boat, having people show up for an event when I didn't really expect anyone to, had me in my feels. That's always a big one, right? Where you kind of just aren't expecting how well something goes and you're like, oh wait, that's really cool. That's awesome, Solar. Eclipse games included. Totally. I mean, you can get confident. That's actually, so like I even wrote down some things because building confidence, you can build confidence in your daily life and the way that you show up, but you can also build confidence in, say, it's like skills in a video game. As many of us are gamers, sometimes like you might start playing a game and not feel very confident and not feel like you have very many skills in it. And then through time, you actually build confidence and you become a better gamer or better player and you get better at it. It can be any area. Even just in terms of miniature painting, having the photos of progress or just looking back to the ones you've painted in the past and seeing how you've improved. I love that as a good point too, is being able to compare. I think so often we get so stuck in the moment of how things are right here, right now, and we fail to look at our progress or how far we've come. And I think that's a great point that can always be a boost in confidence too. So if you're ever feeling like you have some self-doubt in yourself, going through and looking back at where you were maybe a couple months ago or a couple years ago and see how far you've come. Sometimes you expect the worst, but end up getting the best. That has kind of been my motto of life, is always to expect things to just not go well, because then I'm never disappointed. And also, it's not a very fun way to live life. Like if you're always just expecting things to go wrong, I'm trying to do better at acknowledging the fact that different things happen, but that I can still be positive about things. And Pandorica, for me recently, and this sounds silly, but I haven't been wearing makeup lately due to my super early morning schedule. It was always, I need to put on something on my face, and it's been freeing just having my face and people treating me the same. I don't think that's silly at all. I think that is a big thing, and I think that's amazing. And I totally understand that feeling too. Because I started to wear more and more makeup for streams. This is why I've stopped wearing makeup on Mondays for Mindset Monday, because I realized I was starting to feel less confident in myself when I don't wear makeup. And I want to be able to just show up however I am, regardless. So I think that's awesome. Paladin, I told my coworkers off. I haven't worked much in the last 2.5 months. And then the company party, they said they had missed me so much. This time, instead of just accepting the platitude, I asked, so why did you not contact me then? I was so proud of myself for doing that. I think, especially as we're talking about confidence, being able to stand up for yourself and be like, hey, I think that's wonderful. Good job. Icky, I've gotten a few things from work where when it comes to knowing about the parts and my skills about the machines and the product, that I know my stuff and what I bring to the table. But the part that brings it down, I've done this for 10 years, and of course I know what the fuck I talk about, but I also have colleagues that have been there longer and not as good at it either. I don't think time should be part of that. You don't have to say, oh, well, the downside is that it's been 10 years. Don't, throw that out the window. Just be like, I know my stuff and I bring something to the table. You don't have to tell yourself that, like, oh, it's been a long time or something like that. That's how you have gained those skills, is that it did take time. And sure, there are other people that are not going to. I think that's a big thing with confidence, is not comparing yourself to other people. Because the more we compare ourselves to other people, that you never know what somebody else has gone through to get to the same point that you're at, or how long they've been doing something. So making sure that you're focusing on your own self-confidence is really important. Listen, ayo Tiz, hope all's good. Oh, confidence. This is not my conversation. Or is it? If it's something that you're not as good at, then it's even more your conversation. Note, the ability to refrain from complacency helps keep our ambitions in check, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't celebrate today. That's true. To constantly be working for something new, but it's also important to celebrate what we've already accomplished. Okay, so that was just what's one small win that might have boosted your confidence. The second question, which is similar but related, is how does gaming or another hobby help you build confidence in real life or life outside of whatever that hobby is? Because for me, streaming started out as a hobby. This is now what I do full time. But this has built my confidence so much in more areas than I can even probably put to words. Things as simple as asking more just like random questions. It's also helped my confidence in wanting to put on makeup and learn how to do that, or to wear cosplays, or put on different outfits, or try different games I haven't played. There's been so many different things that I feel like streaming has helped me build that. Does anybody else, whether it's streaming or something else, do you have a gaming or a hobby or something that has helped you that you've noticed in real life as well? Brodo, you struggle big time with confidence. I had too many people crushing me down through my life, and I lost my whole confidence when I realized that people were making fun and laughing at me and not actually being truthful. For me, the fake it till you make it didn't work for a long time because I was surrounded by evil people. But now that I'm surrounded by good peeps, faking it is making it work and slowly gaining it back. Still hard though. I think, especially being of the neurospicy variety for me, it never made sense to me why people wouldn't just speak their minds, or why, like that idea of laughing at me and not being like truthful. It's like, why don't you just tell me what you're thinking or feeling so that I can adjust this, or that we can get along in that way? So I understand that. And I think it's that same idea too, like you were saying about surrounding yourself with better people. I like to think of it as, I read a book where they talked about those kind of people are energy vampires. Like if they're people that feel like they take your energy, then they're people that you don't want to surround yourself with. Whereas if you can find people that feel like when you spend time with them, it gives you energy, those are the people that you want to surround yourself with. You're a theater kid and it hurt. I'm so sorry, Brodo. My heart goes out to you. I can only imagine. Listen, I'm good at helping others with theirs, but the return journey is not as good. I feel that. We are always better at talking about things than practicing what we preach. And I think that it's just about first recognizing that and slowly working on it, slowly but surely. Gaming reminds me that I have high cognitive abilities. Do you feel the same way? Sometimes. Sometimes it makes me feel the opposite. But as you play a game, you get better and you learn things and you adjust. And so I think in some ways, yes. Fuzzy, I don't mean to be self-promoing, but YouTube, no, that's not self-promoing at all. I asked you the question. YouTube definitely helped my confidence a bit, to be honest. I started a year ago and it went better than I could have ever expected. And I get tons of positive and some negative comments about my voice, which is definitely something I was a bit self-conscious about before. Yeah, Fuzzy, your videos are awesome. You do have an amazing voice. And the advice that I've gotten on YouTube and stuff from you has been so wonderful. And I think that's part of it, is you get to, not only do you start a hobby that helps you build confidence and learn things like that, but then you've also been helping other people through that, which is super cool. All interaction drains my energy, but I have fun with some people, even so, others not so much. I feel that. There are definitely people that don't feel like they take nearly as much energy for me. And there are others where I feel like I have to put in energy, and I don't even think that that's necessarily a bad thing. It's only when people drain your energy like in a negative way. Obviously, if you're introverted, like you said, anytime spending time with people still is tiring to some extent, but you can still pick and choose who you spend time with, whether it feels like draining but in a positive way, like you're still having social interaction, versus draining and spending time with people that don't make you feel very good about yourself or others. Solar, massive. Having a solid foundation of friends has also increased my confidence level. That's actually a really good point, that I think the people that you surround yourself with helps lift you up. Whereas if you're surrounding yourself with energy vampires, that affects your confidence so much. Like if you were raised in a family that, like my family was wonderful. I loved them so much. My mom and my sister and I, we have always been really critical. And so even without meaning to, growing up, it was constantly like, oh, are you sure you want to wear that? Or like, you're just looking a little bit fluffy. Or, like those little comments that they're not inherently bad on their own, but if you hear that constantly, it can kind of take a impact, or it kind of impacts your confidence. And so Solo, that's a really good point, that if you surround yourself with people that help kind of like lift you up and have really solid friendships, I think that's true. Aiden, I found a really close-knit group of friends through gaming. We're all neurospicy, so we understand each other and accept each other for who we are. They're a wonderful set of human beings. It reminds me that there are people like that out in the world, and those are the people that I want to surround myself with, like this community too. I love that, Aiden. Pixelated Twitch literally broke me out of my shell. I was always very shy, but when I found the community side of Twitch, it changed everything. I made lots of great friends. I've traveled solo for the first time in my life for TwitchCon, and I've been back numerous times. Never would have happened otherwise. So Twitch is a hobby for you that helped your confidence in so many ways. I love that. That's amazing. And Brodo, yeah, I know this is a bit of a dark topic, but I like being around... Oh, but being around the wrong people is why it took so long to manage my sobriety. I have very little friends nowadays, but if I wanted to go out to drink, I would have 20 people that would answer yes right now. I resonate with that so much. I feel like all of my friends in college were people that I was friends with them because we went out to the bars. But kind of when you think about it, you're like, oh, do I have friends that want to like curl up and read a book with me? And so that was a big thing, that finding those people that can support you with the things that you need in your life, I think is really important. Distance streaming for me is very weird. It helps a lot when I'm actually live, but any other time, it's a Kickstarter for overthinking and RSD. Ugh. Totally get that. Yeah, because it's like you have imposter syndrome and comparison and all these other things when you're not live and you're overthinking like the numbers and all the things. And then when you're streaming, you're like, this is great. This is fun. I feel good. So I get that. And I think it is something that we have to work on slowly, is just recognizing that we don't have to overthink those things. And I think that's just a self-growth process or practice for us. Octi, lots of self-reflection and stopping to care what people think about me have helped my confidence. Yeah, the not worrying about judgment. It's a big one. Paladin, I like to view it as I invest energy into people, and I just have to try and find those who give a positive return. That's a perfect way of saying it. I like that. So many strong and good people here. Yeah. And sports are where I'd say 90% of my friends come from. Yeah, Burns, that's a great... honestly, that's where I've been struggling. This is the first time I've not been on sports teams, so I haven't been able to make as many friends from that. Okay, and then another question is, what is one thing that you've done recently that took courage? Eclipse, you had your first psych appointment to try out ADHDs. Oh, that's awesome. Wait, did you already get meds too, or you just went to the initial appointment? Burns, I feel that honestly. I didn't weigh more than 130 till this past year. That's because my upper body's where all my weight is. My lower body is less than half of the working muscles of a regular person. That's fair. I get that. Yeah, and all of that is relative, right? Like weight and what your body looks like is, to me, it should be about how you feel. But I do think there's a component of it to when you look good, you feel good. There's that saying. And so like for me, when I see photos, if I've gained more weight than I'm used to, then I'm like, ugh, I don't feel as good about myself, and I don't feel as strong, and I don't feel as confident. So I guess that's another point to when it comes to confidence, is that like putting time and energy into yourself and your body, whether that's eating healthier or working out or making sure you're just like getting movement and taking care of yourself, caring about the clothes that you wear or the way that you present yourself. I think that's a huge piece that goes into confidence, which I'm kind of surprised that we hadn't brought that up already. But Fuzzy, I had a surgery that had almost a 30% chance of death or chronic side effect recently. And I guess that took courage, but it wasn't really like I had much choice in the matter. That sounds absolutely terrifying, and that does take courage. And so no side effects and everything, you've come, healing has been going well too? Brodo, yeah, I went to a general practitioner to make a whole checkup this year. In the very first appointment, he said that I needed to watch what I eat. When my blood test came back, he apologized. I'm a chunky goblin because I have a thyroid problem and a disability, not because I'm unhealthy and other people thinking everything about weight kind of pisses me off. Yeah, well, and that's a good point, that every body is different. Like whether it is from disability or genetics or whatever it is, it's important to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. But everyone's body is going to look different. And so what feels best is always what's the most important. Although granted, I know that obviously it's a lot harder when you do have things like that. So you're like, I'm eating healthy and it's still not doing anything. And it can be really frustrating, and I totally get that. But I think ultimately it's just about making sure that you are taking care of yourself as well as you can. Yeah, I eat pretty well and I exercise to the extent that my body allows me, but a lot of people assume otherwise. Yeah. And I think that's, people just need to understand that you don't, it's kind of that whole like, don't judge a book by its cover. Like everybody has things going on. It's easy to just assume that you know. And that's always my thing that I always try to just tell myself, is just as there's that whole like, what, to assume makes an ass out of you and me. Have you guys heard that? That's what I always tell myself too. Like you can never assume that you know what's going on with somebody. Like somebody might be being mean because there's something going on in their life, which is not a good excuse, but you always never know. 4, yeah, I've wanted to write some of my own books after years of reading others, and I finally started actually planning out a couple that I've had ideas for. 4, that's so freaking exciting. I love it. Akari, I've not been feeling brave, but probably been it. But I think I can be a bit more brave to stand my ground. I love that. Well, and maybe that's something just for you to recognize now, is like, maybe there haven't been as many things. And so maybe that's just a sign for yourself that like, okay, maybe I want to go out and be brave with some stuff. Whether that's like meeting new people or doing travel or I don't know, whatever it is that feels like it would take a little bit of courage for you that you want to try to do. Yeah, Aiden, it took a lot of courage for me to go home to SoCal last week. I had to get my mom's car out of a tow lot and help clean her house, hoarding house. And just being in the area is very triggering for me. It took me 2 days and tons of paperwork and back and forth, but I was able to get the car out. I'm so proud of myself for getting it done. Heck yeah, that's amazing. I, I totally feel that feeling of like going home or going to a place where it triggers a lot of things for you. And I think being able to get through that and come out on the other side and be like, we did it. I think that's a great way to help build that confidence. Okay, so those were the main questions about confidence that I kind of had. I just write down 3 that I figure that we'll chat about a little bit. Yeah, no, Fuzzy, it checks out. That makes sense. And then I just like, so for confidence specifically, I just wrote down a few little things that just popped into my head as far as what would help. Confidence, I have a very rocky relationship. I've never been too confident ever. Same. Yeah, if anything, I've been the opposite. But there are things, I think a big thing is you gain confidence in a skill that you practice and you get better at, right? And for me, I think there are some people in the world that are really good at having confidence or like getting good at a skill and then just being like, I'm the shit. I know what I'm doing. I've never been good at that. I've always felt like I'm like, there's still something wrong. And whether that was the way that I was raised or something, like I always don't feel like I'm fully good enough at something. But I've tried to be better at being like, okay, once I have a skill at something, I can at least acknowledge that that is something that I am good at or that I can be confident about. So I think the first point that I put was practicing things deliberately. So if you have a skill that you want to work on and get better at, you dedicate time to it. So for example, this chainmail stuff, I've been wanting to do that. At the beginning, it was so hard. I just spent the last 3 days almost entirely doing chainmail to the point that I'm like, okay, if someone was to ask me like, hey, how do you make all these chainmail things? I could confidently tell them or give lessons on how to do that now, right? So the first tip with building confidence is practice whatever it is that you want to be good at. Like very few of us are good at everything immediately, and it does take putting in effort into whatever it is. And that can even be things like socializing, right? I did not used to be I was homeschooled until halfway through, like I went to a smaller school in 7th grade and then a public school in 10th grade. And I was so shy just because I didn't hang out with people as much. So I had to push myself out of my comfort zone to talk to more people. And then traveling helped me a lot with that. And when I went to hostels and things like that, I had to push myself out of my comfort zone to go up and talk to random people and see if they wanted to be my friend. Because that was how I was going to practice making friends and talking more, right? So the first tip is about practicing deliberately. Brodo, I'm extremely shy when it comes to approaching people. However, I'm super open to being approached. I can talk with people for hours, but they need to talk to me first. Yeah, that's honestly, it's sometimes a struggle to figure out what to say first. And there's that fear of like, if you say something, not knowing what their reaction is going to be. So it's a lot easier to take, like to be the one to step into that opening rather than try to create it. But it is something that takes practice. Okay, so first tip was practicing deliberately. The second one is setting realistic goals. Like if you're trying to get better at being confident talking to people, like we were just talking about. I just said talking so many times in that sentence. Then setting a goal to like, okay, I'm going to public speak in front of 500 people in 2 days. Maybe not the most realistic thing, but being like, I'm going to talk to one new person a week or something like that. Something that you can track how you are slowly increasing, getting better at something, but in a realistic, achievable way. So setting realistic goals. I think the third thing is embracing failures, knowing that anything you do, you can view as learning opportunities, and you can always analyze what went wrong and try to adjust that. Like for me, for the longest time, I hate watching myself back. So watching VODs are really hard for me, but it also is really nice because if I go back, then I can realize, oh, like I say this word too much. That's how I know that I say right a million times. Or I didn't like the way that I said that. I want to try doing this instead. Or maybe I should try to be a little bit more upbeat about these things. Like being able to look at things when they don't go right and view it as a learning lesson, I think is really important. Doing positive self-talk. So rather than beating yourself up over if something doesn't go right, it is never going to build your confidence to just shit talk yourself. Making sure that you're doing positive self-talk. So using affirmation, positive mantras, anything to encourage yourself. Telling yourself that you are capable and having positive self-talk is really important. I think doing things like visualizations and reflections, like thinking back on how you could have done differently. There's actually tons of studies that show that mental rehearsal, like athletes who mentally rehearse their gameplay or doing certain things, it shows to actually improve performance. So visualization, mental rehearsal is actually a thing that works. And if you don't know what that is, basically it's like picture, like if you're an athlete, it's picturing your game, like actually in your head, visualizing step by step, like scoring a goal or making a touchdown or whatever it is, right? That you can picture happening. Studies show that that actually does improve. Big thing is avoid comparison. It's really hard to be confident in yourself if you're looking at other measures of what you think success look like. And then if you don't measure up, it can be really draining. So always avoiding comparison. You can, I already talked about reflecting or like just like analyzing how you're doing. And then I think another thing is body language. Have you seen, I watched a video once that talked about even the way that you hold yourself can improve confidence. Like there's the superwoman posture where if you stand with your legs out and your hands on your hips, there was some study done where it talked about even just like standing here like this, like holding your body in a quote unquote power pose can help improve your confidence. So I think one of the studies was saying that they would do this like before a big meeting or something and notice if it actually improved outcome and confidence. And it does. If you only mentally look at all the bad things you've done, you don't have room for all the good things you've done. Exactly. And also, it's kind of that same, I've talked about this a lot, but there's something called your reticular, I think it's your reticular activating system. Yeah, I think it's your reticular activating system that it recognizes patterns and it like filters things. So, and it filters out all information that it thinks is not important. So like if I were to tell you like look around your room and tell me how many things are blue, and then you look around for all the things that are blue, it only registers the blue things and it won't look at everything else, right? So then if I ask you, okay, now how many things, now without looking, how many things are red? And you're like, I don't know, I only look for blue things, right? And how that works with negativity is if you are telling yourself that things are negative all of the time, your brain is only going to look for those things. So if you can tell yourself to look for the positive things instead, that actually helps to rewire your brain to search for those kind of things. Yeah, surround yourself with people who uplift you. Yes. Yes, that's another one. Okay, does anybody have any last thoughts on confidence? I think I am always so impressed with the insights that you guys have. I really appreciate and I feel really honored that you guys choose to be vulnerable and open up and to talk about these things. I think sometimes it can be challenging to even share those things. And I feel really honored that you guys discuss it here and feel safe enough for this to be a space that we can all talk about it. Muy bien, re-on confidence. Something that has helped me and might help y'all. Just find one or more things that you actually love about yourself and remind yourself about it. Honestly, I think things as simple as that where, well, I say simple, but it can actually be
you now.
It can actually be a really hard process is this concept of telling yourself the good things, because so often we are so hard on ourselves. And so the biggest thing for confidence, I think, is just truly working on telling ourselves all these good things. Brodo, but for real, on a serious note, I've been through 12 years of therapy and overcame too many shitty stuff. And now that I feel like I've recovered and I'm doing good, I really do want to be more open. So maybe my insights can help others, if that makes sense. No, 100%. And I agree. And that's something for me, it's like I have done so much self-worth and self-growth, and there is so much more that I know that I still need to do. But if I have all this knowledge, it's like, why not share it? And if it, like you said, Brodo, if it can, even if it can help one or two people, I think that is what's important. So I think the conversations that we all have with each other, even if it's people that are lurking and they just kind of like hear it a little bit, I don't know, maybe it helps. You never know. I don't have that many people who are in the same situation I was when I needed help, and having the experience from someone who overcame the very same thing you struggled with can make a big difference. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing with Mindset Mondays, right? Is that sometimes we don't always know who's watching or who's listening in streams for me. And sometimes it feels really pointless. Like I almost stopped after the first, I think that was like the first or the second Mindset Monday we did. It was really short. Not a lot of people said anything. And I was kind of like, well, does this even help anyone? And I thought about not doing it. And like you said, Brodo, it's like, well, if even one person who didn't say anything still heard what I said and applied part of that to their life and it helps in any way, I feel like it's worth it. So thank you guys. I really appreciate everybody who participates and gives thoughts, but even those of you who are lurking and just listening. I think that all of the things that we talk about can be really important. And I appreciate all of you for creating a safe space for other people to be able to feel comfortable sharing. And I think that that's really important. So thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Next week is going to be, yeah, speaking of, we talked about that a little bit today. It is turning negative self-talk into positive action. Negative self-talk is the number one thing that I struggle with, that I am really, really bad at. And so I am excited to talk about that next week with you guys. See if anyone has some really good tips and some ideas. Kari, I'm not here next week. The things that we don't like to hear are probably the things that we need to hear most. Well, the things that we struggle with are the things that we probably need the most practice with. So we're going to be talking about turning negative self-talk into positive action. Today was about building self-confidence. Thank you guys. I know a lot of these topics overlap, but you can hear things a million times and it sometimes takes a long time to stick. So I think it's still important to talk about these things every week, even if it's repetitive stuff. I think that it's really cool. I appreciate it. So I'll see you guys next week. Yeah. Thank you.